Okay. I just don't have a lot of light in here.
Okay, you're good to go, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Katie. Let's see, do we have Council Member Ekstrom? Did we lose her? Does anybody see her? There she is. Oh, there's Council Member Ekstrom. Welcome to our work session tonight, Council. It's good to have you here. Good to see your smiling faces. Once again, appreciate your service to our community. With that, why don't we go ahead and have Council Member Barker tell us if he's going to pray tonight, if he's going to give us a thought, and then leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Council Member Barker?
I'll give an opening prayer.
All right, great.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity we have as City Council, Mayor, staff, and North Ogden residents together tonight for the City Council meeting. Please bless that we'll be led and guided by thy hand, and that you will help us do what's best for our city and for our residents. Bless us with the ability to listen and to understand the concerns that are brought up in these things we say. In thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Barker.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't know whose month it is next month, but I think we might change from the Pledge of Allegiance to having the council members sing the Star Spangled Banner. So I'm not worried about Charlotte doing that, but the rest of you, I'm a little bit concerned. So you might want to practice.
Let's start next month.
Next month, that'd be good. We'll start next month.
And you're
All right.
first.
Pardon?
And you're first.
Oh, my next month?
Yeah, you're
That
first
sounds
to sing it.
Oh, well, that we won't have many citizens joining us after that. So anyway, let's proceed tonight. Let me read our famous statement this evening. So pursuant to code section 59-2-407, being the mayor of North Ogden City, I've determined that conducting an electronic meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This determination is based upon the November 8th, 2020 declaration by the governor of the state of Utah regarding the increase in COVID-19 cases and the need for caution in people meeting together. So the March 2nd, 2021 meeting of the North Ogden City Council once again will be held electronically, and we will not have a physical location. All attendees will conduct remotely, and links for public participation are available on the North Ogden City website. I've been having discussions with John, and at the appropriate time, maybe we can have the discussion council on when we can get together, whether we use the Senior Citizen Center or whatever. It would be nice. I think with the vaccinations coming out, the decline in the spread of COVID, and wearing masks, we might be able to do that soon. So be thinking about that, how you feel about that, and we can proceed there. So, all right. With that, are there any conflicts of interest tonight regarding issues we'll be discussing that anyone who would like to make a declaration regarding their concern of a conflict? All right, seeing none, we'll enter into our active agenda. And we will seek public comments. So Katie, if you could let us know if we have public with us tonight who would like to comment.
Doesn't look like we have anyone at this time that would like to make a comment.
All right. We'll proceed, and then if we miss somebody, they can make comments at the end of our meeting. So let's move on to item number 4 with Mr. Call, our city manager and attorney. He'll be discussing our public safety questions and discussion about next steps and kind of an update on where we're at in regards to the public safety building. So, John?
Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button.
No problem.
So, council, this discussion centers around two topics. One is just kind of letting the council look at the frequently asked questions. These are the items that the staff has put together with the mayor and the chief and the court being involved, Laura Barker over at the court, putting down some of the questions that we've heard. We didn't include all the answers because we didn't want to have multiple versions of the same document out there, especially if we have some final tweaks to do. But the idea was we thought it would be good for this group to look at those questions and provide any feedback. Let us know if there's anything missing. So that my hope would be that on the 24th of March, we can present the final frequently asked questions document and then have a discussion about exactly what the council would like us to do from here, specifically focusing on exactly what the just clicking on a few things, but what the council sees as the next step and what some maybe timelines or goals might be, understanding and with that we try and get the word out to the residents and those who'd be interested to basically my hope would be that on the 24th we'd have a decision and some marching order for the staff to move forward as far as are we moving forward at all. If we are moving forward, what's the route we want to take, if we want to, looking at a revenue bond or a go bond or, what method of financing. And then the other topic that would be discussed at that meeting would be how we'd like to approach the construction, if assuming we're moving forward. From my perspective, and I think the mayor would support this, but he can let you know if he doesn't, we would want to look at basically putting a team of an architect and a contractor together, so that the contractor can keep the architect in line with cost saving ideas, as well as not, no one has indicated we're trying to build the Taj Mahal. We're trying to build something functional. And so I guess the goal of today's discussion is to make sure we know everything the council wants so that we can present it on the 24th and give you the tools necessary to feel like you're making an informed decision, and one that you feel like we've adequately overturned every rock that we can think of, and that you feel comfortable as you would eventually obviously address questions from neighbors and other individuals in the community about why you made the choice you made. So it's really kind of a council, what do you need from staff so we can be ready for the meeting on the 24th?
John, can I add a little color to this, just maybe a little bit more information?
Of course.
And what you see before you here are the questions we've compiled and put together. We have written answers to these also. We thought it might be a little bit voluminous tonight to go through all the answers. Some are very short, some are a little bit longer. John and myself, the first step, no matter what we do, is to make sure we have land to build the building on. As you know, there's options. Our first option has been identified previously, and John and myself have met with the owner of that particular property to enter into discussions on acquiring that property. I think one way or the other, it's good to have that property that's adjacent to the facility. And so we have met. John is proceeding along in that area of getting an appraisal and working with the seller, so we can see if that's the option we want to pursue or not pursue. Additionally, John and myself met with just for informational purposes, and I want to clarify that because we have to get our hands around the estimated, make sure we have an estimated price to build this facility. So we met with a general contractor who has built, I think they said 5 of these in the state of Utah. John, is that right? 4 or 5?
Yeah, that's right.
Of these type of facilities. And he has given us an estimate of cost based upon their previous experience with the limited information we have. So we have proceeded to that point, just update you on those two. But with that, here's the questions that we have listed. And I believe we've also scripted answers to each one of these questions that we're more than happy to share for your modification and addition. So just wanted to add those two, John, to give an update on where we're at this point in time. So go ahead, John.
No, that's great, Mayor. So really the discussion is exactly what the council would like us to put together. So, and obviously you're not going to offend anyone by saying you need more information, because I think we all know that there's more information out there that we would like to obviously get in the hands of residents, council members, even staff. We're finding that we need to even be improving the way we're communicating internally so that anyone who answers a phone can answer most questions, or at least know who to send the phone call to. So what issues of those 3 things that I identified, what are some additional questions that aren't on this list that you'd like us to include as well as answer? And then I guess in general, is the council comfortable moving forward on March 24th? I know I'm kind of being a little forceful in picking a day, but especially if the group was looking at doing the GO bond or the GO bond this year, we really want to make sure that we're ahead of it so that our residents are getting plenty of time to be ready for the election and things like that.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yes, Councilman Severin, go ahead, please.
John, I went through all of these questions earlier and I haven't come up with something new. I think they're excellent questions. And I don't think setting a date for March 24th is bad at all. I think that's a good idea. So I don't think you should feel like you're rushing us. My curiosity is how is this going to be disseminated into the city? Will this be in North Ogden Connection? How are people going to get access to this? Maybe outside of that meeting on the 24th?
So we do have a project page on the website that we've been updating periodically. The frequently asked questions would be there. We have also talked about including it in the Connection magazine. The March magazine is already out. Some people might have already received it in their mailboxes, or they'll be receiving it here in the next week or so. But we also will be doing several posts on the city's official Facebook page, including it in the newsletter for those who sign up for emails through the city's newsletter email system. And then we can even on the utility bills include a little bit of language, at least pointing them to the correct website or other ways to get information.
Well, this is just a thought, because I know it just kind of popped into my mind. Could we have some of the local, and you guys tell me if this is a bad idea, it just popped into my mind, but wonder if we were to make copies of this available like at Lee's or at Smith's, where as people were checking out, they could pick up one and take it home. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the different mediums we would have to try to get it out as well as we could.
Yeah, we could look into doing that. Obviously, it'd be volunteer basis with the stores.
Right.
Councilman Severing, I think your question is good. We want to get this into the hands of as many citizens as we can. So council, we're open for additional suggestions.
If
We're-
if the council wanted to do something like an actual flyer, the cost for that would, I don't know exactly, but because it'd be a bulk mailing, where we were sending it to basically everyone in the zip code, it'd be cheaper than what it would cost for a forever stamp, for example. Because the post office wouldn't have to sort it. They'd basically just, give it out to the folks who do the routes, and they throw them in the mailbox along with everything else they're delivering that day.
John, I don't know if we have citizens listening to us, but if they have any ideas, when we get to public comments, we're surely open. I know we're all interested in getting this into the hands of as many of our citizens as we can, to be totally transparent. So once again, Councilman Severing, I think your point is well taken. Councilman Barker, do you have any suggestions on that?
No, I like all the questions. I'm glad we got answers. I don't know how you get it out to the public. You can only do social media so much, put a link on their utility bill, but other than that, that's a good question.
John, would it cost us any more? I think this might have been Councilman Swanson made a suggestion on another issue. And I think with the answers on this, it was probably 2 or 3 pages. If we printed this up on a different colored paper and inserted it in the utility bill, you think, would that work? Would it cost us any more than sending out the utility bill if we put a couple more pages in?
The hard thing would be the utility bill goes out tomorrow. And so it would be hard to get it out, get a flyer in, and them printed. So if we were doing it as just a note on the bill that said, hey, go to this web address for frequently asked questions, that we can do. The other option really, I think, would be limited to the mailing an actual flyer. And if we did it as a postcard, that's even cheaper, than an envelope is. So we have some ways that we could get something out to the residents here in the next week, and make sure that they're all very aware of the discussion on the 24th of March.
Mayor, I would be a fan, because I'm so concerned about the transparency issue. I think perhaps we could minimize some of the questions on here. I don't know if every one of these questions, I mean, here we are talking about transparency and then I make this comment, but I'm not sure if every question here has to be answered and made public. I mean, we can make this available on the website or Facebook, however we decide to do it with social media. But I think if we were to condense some of the most important questions and mail them out as even a separate mailer, I think that would be well worth the money spent to be able to do that.
Okay. Councilmember Stoker, do you have anything to add or comments to make sure we're as transparent as we can on this issue?
Well, as going over this list, I've noticed that some of them that have to do with the, the questions asking if we considered combining with the Weber County Sheriff's, there's a few that are kind of repeating themselves, that maybe we could add some of those, but I don't know if we're going to put these questions out and they're frequently asked. I think the citizens will want to know the answers to all of these. So I don't know that condensing them is a good idea, in my opinion.
Okay. And like I say, we do have answers to each of these questions. Some are short, some are long. And since you brought that up, since the meeting's been recorded and some of our citizens look at this, Council member Stoker and John and myself did meet with the Weber County Sheriff and had a discussion about their ability to service North Ogden. And there's obviously benefits and there's some real downsides, but we have investigated that. We do have answers to that. And at the appropriate time, more than happy to have open and full discussion. Councilman Swanson, what ideas do you have?
You know, I don't have anything that is beyond what's already on the frequently asked questions or what's been discussed thus far as getting it out. I think we have to always keep in the back of our mind that no matter what we do, there will be some who don't see it, don't pay attention to it, don't read it, don't make any effort to find out any information, who will later say that we haven't been transparent and we didn't get the information out. So just something to keep in the back of our mind as we do all that we can to get the information to everyone who wants the information. I like the idea of a separate, excuse me, either a postcard or a mailer on a bright pink paper or something like that that draws attention to it, that goes to every home. At least with that, we can verify that it has been sent to every home, and that opportunity to look at it, read it, and go to the webpage has been presented to at least each home.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ekstrom?
Yeah, I agree. I want to get this information out. It's, information is available to those who really are looking for it. I don't know how, it's one of those lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink kind of a thing. It seems to me we've got, just as Councilman Swanson said, we can do everything that we can to let them know. And we just have to expect that there's going to be a certain number of citizens that will come after the decision is made and question everything, every process that we did. They're going to ask every one of these questions. And mostly what I'm concerned about is that we are united as a council, so that when they do come at us, we're together on it, right? That we're not like, oh, well, maybe we should revisit it again. It's like, no, we need to get this project started. I mean, really need to get this project started. So I think my question is to my fellow council members, are we united in this? Because people are going to come question at us and they're going to be, even kind of irate and, probably not even very nice. So can we, that's mostly my concern. It's like, I kind of don't want to change horses midstream. So I think as long as we're, united in what we want to do, I think I'd really like to move forward. So I do agree with getting a postcard out. We can do an every door direct mail where we can actually do up to, postal routes in the city so that they're just going to North Ogden residents. So that there really is, we have something to say. It's like, this was sent out, you did receive it. So that residents really have no excuse to say they didn't know.
Yeah, I thought that's human nature, right? Those who don't feel like we're doing the best we can for them will be critical, but I think I've always believed we can only do what we can do. And then citizens who are interested have to pick it up from there and do what they can do. So I don't think we're afraid of the criticism, as long as we've done our due diligence and we know we're doing the right things for the citizen in our community. And so I don't think that should, I don't believe it does make us fearful from making tough, hard decisions. For those who will read the article, there's risk in doing nothing. And sometimes the risk of doing nothing creates mediocrity. And we are not a city that wants to be mediocre. That's not our goal. So John, if I'm hearing the council right, we need to get a postcard out, and I don't know if that postcard just says, you know, we have an important meeting on the 24th of March, and please refer to this website for questions regarding the decision regarding the public safety building. But I think the council is given direction on making sure that we communicate to the citizens. So do you need any further information on that, John?
No, other than just, you know, council, if you do have other stuff that comes up between now and the 24th, don't hesitate. But just include the mayor, the chief, and myself in any of that communication, so that one of us will make sure that we get it on and out as quick as we can. So.
Okay, so second assignment would be to contact us regarding any additional questions. What about getting the council the answers so that they can modify and tweak those, John?
I will get them out before the end of the day tomorrow, if not tonight.
Okay, and council, please, we've given it our best shot, but I'm sure you have some modifications and additions, and please communicate those. And just back to Council Member Ekstrom's comment, I think it is important that we make a decision and then be united in that. That doesn't mean that we can't express our concerns and our opinions as we debate what to do. Probably goes without saying, I don't think many of you are too shy about expressing your opinion. But that doesn't mean we have to be in total agreement. We can have our differences, but when we make a decision, I think it is important that we're united in that decision. So, John, what else do you need from us?
I think that's it. Unless there's the council, I was planning on presenting or having Zions Bank here to talk about revenue bonds and go bonds, unless the council has another method of financing they'd like us to explore.
We ought to check with Councilman Swanson to see if he can finance it on a private loan, but other than that, I don't know of any options.
Give me just a second here. I'm checking.
All right. Get back to us after you check.
No, sorry.
All right.
And so the council's aware, we are also looking at grants and other things that might be available, but we are we're just want to make sure the council's aware of those, at least those two, as being the most likely the major components, even though we are trying to put down a substantial amount of existing money as well, where if we can. So,
John, could we talk about that for a minute? The exercise you and I and Evan have gone through, that we wanted to get to Councilman Swanson for his review as our liaison with finance. Can we talk about that just for a minute?
Yeah, of course. So one of the things we've been looking at is exactly how much money we have available in the two main funds that can fund general fund projects, which is the capital project fund and then the general fund. And so in looking forward for the next 5 years or so at all the projects the city is obligated to participate in, you know, road projects, park projects, things like that, and look at what our current balances are and what our future balances might be, to kind of evaluate how much potential money there is as far as a cash down payment on this building, or at least, you know, for example, paying cash for the contractor or the architect or the property we need to buy. And so the council's aware, and so the residents are aware that if we are moving forward with a bond, that it's not all going to be borrowed for, that we are using some of the money we've saved. And then tied into that discussion is also identifying the money that we would be leaving in those funds. So we still have a rainy day fund, and we still have some project fund money available for those if a situation came up and there was something we needed to do that, you know, we needed to have the money for. So those are the type of things that we're trying to put together. And I know that Evan has been instrumental in getting those fund balances. Our final balance for 21 or for 20, as well as what we project at the end of this year, are going to be the two numbers that we're going to be relying on heavy for that discussion.
Well, council, is our intention to make a down payment of a substantial nature. As a reminder, when we were budgeting last year, we set a floor on the minimum amount we would want in the general fund balance or the rainy day fund. And I believe we set that at no less than 15% of general fund revenues. And then also, as John mentioned, keeping some money in the capital projects fund for things that might come up. The other thing that we are really digesting, and we're just missing one piece of that, is we believe with current operations right now and the way we've historically budgeted, we do have excess revenues over expenses already happening in the city. So we've kind of set a threshold on that of how much of the current excess revenues over expenses we could use and still be safe in building back our general fund balance. And the numbers we're seeing now that have to be confirmed, and I want to make sure of that, would really minimize any property tax increase that we would have to ask the citizens for to fund this building, which I think is in our commitment to try to keep the city fiscally responsible, but minimizing the burden on the citizens. So at this point in time, unless we have some big surprises, I think there's some positive things going on, and we won't get into the detail on that till Councilman Swanson has a chance to review that philosophy and confirm that as his assignment with being the financial liaison. But at this point in time, it does look positive, which is good. Is good. So as soon as we can get some additional numbers, Councilman Swanson will be getting with you, and I think we need to just keep that in mind as we budget this year, of trying to maintain our current level of excess revenues over expenses, knowing that that can be used to make bond payment and reduce the burden on the citizens. So does that make sense? So I guess it could be said we're not sitting on our hands. We're trying to get information. Okay, John, anything else?
Not on that, Mayor.
All right, then let's move on to the other item, next item on our agenda, which
Mayor,
is
I just have a quick question that's kind of related, but not completely right. I mean, since we're talking about funds and balances and things, did we ever get our audit finished?
Let's go to Councilman Swan. No, I won't. No.
Okay, still in process.
We're very close. Very, very close.
I think we're just waiting for the Councilman Swanson suggested we put a picture of him in the audit. And so we're just waiting for the proof on that. Just kidding. As Councilman Swanson said, we're close. We've got comments back. The auditors have all the information. Few tweaks on the wording in the report. I spoke with Evan today, and he indicated he was hoping that by the end of the week, we would have agreement with the auditors, and shortly thereafter, our hope is to have a report. Is that the information you have, Councilman Swanson?
Yes, it is. And there will be when we present the audit, we'll go into more detail about why it's taken the time. It's good in the long run. Why it's taken as long as it has. There's been some things that we've learned, and we'll just leave it at that for the moment. There's nothing nefarious that's been uncovered, anything like that. There's nothing untowards at all that's lurking back there that we're trying to hold back and then release all at once. it's a matter of details. You know, the devil's always in the details, and how details are analyzed and looked at can vary from one individual to another. And so we're getting better detail. Let's just leave it at that.
Councilman, just so there's no surprises, the auditors, as part of their responsibilities of independence, have to communicate issues they ran into, adjustments that had to be made. And there will be some items that will have to be discussed during that. But I think, as Councilman Swanson said, this has cleared up a lot of things and cleaned up a lot of things, and it's got us on the path to move forward, I think, in a better situation. Continuous improvement. Councilman Ekstrom, Councilwoman Ekstrom. All right, John, if we could move on to the next one, and hopefully Dave is with us, Dave Espinosa. We wanted to have a discussion about situation on 2600 North. There's been some discussion about potential restriping to lighten the burden on that road without, I guess, minimizing the effect it could have on citizens, to see if we can't solve a problem with minimal impact. So, John, is Dave with us?
I am, Mayor.
All right, Dave, let's hear from you about the restriping of 2600 North.
All right. So Katie, if you could bring up the map I sent in as well. Council, we've taken a look at this, and let's go to the next one, Katie, if we could. So, and the only reason I say to go to this next one is that on that last sheet, it includes, the Washington Boulevard, and obviously we're making some changes there. But we actually got these drawings back in 15 and 16, when we actually looked at it then to do a left turn pocket. And so what you're seeing, Council, is just, at all these intersections, we are putting in a left turn pocket to make it a safer drive going up 2600. With that being said, there are some things that are being taken away. On-street parking is one of the things that we have to take away by doing this. But, we feel at Public Works and talking with, Chief Quinney, we feel that this is a safer approach, because it keeps the flow of traffic going, except for these turn pockets, and it'll minimize, the times that when somebody will actually have to drive around somebody. The only times we'll have to worry about those kind of things are on garbage day, or if a delivery package is being dropped off. But you'll be passing to the left, and you'll be passing in that median, instead of trying to go around somebody on the right and not seeing them. The other things that we looked at when we did this drawing, obviously, the bus stops you can see on this first page. We'll have to actually go into the right of way and cut out some of those bus stops so that they can park, and we would still be able to have the flow of traffic going. So those are some of the biggest thing, the big things. We feel like the traffic flow will keep on going, and it's the least of the most impact, if that makes sense. So instead of having to go and take somebody's property to do a widening project like we have to up 400, we feel like we can restripe 2600 and not have to, put that impact on some of these residents along 2600. So, does anybody have any questions about any of these?
Council?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Stoker.
my concern is too, and is there are a lot of bikers who ride up and down 2600. So with that shoulder being real narrow. Dave, how do you think this is gonna, impact bikers and cars?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, the shoulder is going to be a lot more narrow. I mean, but we are still leaving 4 feet of shoulder on each side. Um, just to try to help with that impact. That was one of those one of the things that actually caught this up, in 2016 when we had this discussion the last time, was that that there's only sidewalk on one side, and the bikers would have to be on the road. And so, how can we minimize that impact to them as much as we can? And this is why we kind of came up with the 4-foot shoulder. I know that's still, very narrow. But we feel like it's some kind of a compromise that, to help with that situation.
Okay. Is there any way, I mean, I don't know if it's feasible or that's every now and then it could be stenciled in that it's that part of that shoulder is a bike lane?
Yeah, I mean, so we could do kind of like what we do on the, we've done it up 1050, we've done it along Alberta. We can do those green stencils and just show that it's, that it is a bike lane. If you know what I'm talking about, it's those,
I do.
yep, the green squares with the bike symbol inside of it.
Uh,
That's something
yeah.
we could definitely do and try to help with that.
I think that would be a big help. Thank you.
Yep.
Dave, I've been contacted by some residents who are a little bit concerned, or maybe even a lot concerned, that the driveway is on the south side of the road.
Mhm.
When that property was taken, makes it difficult sometimes to park one long vehicle. Their concern is taking the parking away on the road inhibits their ability to have guests at their home
Okay.
because of the shortness of the driveway. Were there any concerns expressed last time when this was discussed in that regard?
Yes, Mayor. That was one of the other big ones. And it's one of those, just the trade-offs that, we talked about, because I think we're coming to, traffic is so heavy along 2600 there that it's going to have to be one of those either or situations where we can do striping like this, and we are taking away their on-street parking, or we have to really look at a widening situation to keep the flow of traffic going, and then we're taking property at that point. And so that is probably the hardest part of this whole thing, just because I don't see another solution as far as being able to do something there. Like the other thing that got brought up the last time was 4 months out of the year we don't allow parking there anyways because of snow plowing and those kind of things. So they are minimized a little bit anyways, but yeah, that's one of the tough ones, Mayor, where I don't have a good answer to address that one.
Well, I think it would be, and Council Member Ekstrom, I know that she's talked a lot about this, and I know in the election, the importance of infrastructure. I think this is an example of the problem we have with the growth in the city. We don't have the infrastructure in some cases to handle it. This is nothing that's paid for by developers. We just have more traffic in the city. It's back to my comment of doing nothing sometimes is a higher risk than doing something. I know Councilman Barker feels this way. The last thing we want to do is take people's property, and since I've been the mayor, there hasn't been any discussion about doing that. I think that's a kind of a last resort. And frankly, this project of widening it in another way would be so expensive and so almost unjust to the people along that side of the road. because I look at that sidewalk on the north side. I'll just be honest with you, I don't know how we got away with that. Because you've got mailboxes right in the middle, you know. I'd be interested to know if that complies with the ADA stuff, because you've got mailboxes right in the middle of the sidewalk almost on that south side. And I don't know how people get around that. I'm obviously a little bit more conscientious about that because I've dealt with hurdles for those who have challenges, but I think this is I guess the best of the worst decisions that could be made, but I'd like to hear from each member of the council. I think let's start with you, Council Member Ekstrom.
Sure. Again, it's kind of a catch-22 here. There's not a great, perfect solution on this. One of the things that I like about taking off the on-street parking is the visibility, because 2600 has gotten so busy. I know there's somebody that parks a big pickup truck just west of Fruitland Drive, which I know when I'm trying to pull out to take my children to school, it's very difficult to see past them. And so I'm okay with getting rid of the on-street parking and that having, but I also understand I love to have people over at my house. And a lot of times, I'm glad I live on a cul-de-sac because sometimes I fill it up with cars with visitors. So, my heart goes out to those that, want to have people over, because there's not a good place to park, when you live along there. But, I guess that's what a lot of people that live on busy streets that have to deal with. I think about other places that I've lived, even Texas, where there's lots and lots of space. They have the narrowest roads and, just barely 2-lane, divided highways, 40, 50 miles an hour. And the sidewalk had no parking. The sidewalk was right next to it. So, we've been really, really kind of spoiled with how, the wide roads that we got from Brigham Young. So, I think this, again, just as Dave said, this is the best of the worst options. So yeah, I like this. This keeps traffic flowing. It gets turning vehicles out of the way so that we don't have people tempted to go over onto the shoulder. I can't think of a better one. So that's my position.
Councilman Swanson, you've been around for a while. What could we hear from you, please?
Yeah, not an easy, it hasn't been an easy thought process for the last almost 6 years that we've been considering 2600, the flow of traffic there, and what can and can't be done, what should or shouldn't be done, and what we do or don't do. Doing nothing is clear that that's not an option. While it may be tolerable now as we continue to grow and as traffic continues to increase, it will quickly become beyond intolerable and even more dangerous than it can be at times now. That said, I spoke to one of the residents on 2600 almost 5-6 years ago and mentioned at that time that my preference at that time would be that we do everything we possibly can to eliminate homes having to be lost and houses having to be taken down and families uprooted, and that I was willing to sit through an extra light or travel down 2600 during peak times at a slower than pleasurable rate, and maybe have to wait an extra light if it meant that some of my neighbors, right, my city neighbors, were able to stay in their homes. For me, this striping pattern may be, and we won't know until we try it, but this may be the way that we, on one hand, again, are requiring the folks that live on the street to make a sacrifice. And I feel for the amount of sacrifices they've been asked to make repeatedly. but we're also asking the rest of the community to make a sacrifice in being tolerant and understanding of a road that under ideal conditions would be 2 lanes in each direction. But because we want to maintain homes and families, we've chosen to use a traffic flow that during peak times is a little slower, takes a light or two more than the 2 lanes each direction would take. And that's the sacrifice that the rest of the community makes, along, hand in hand, whatever cliche you want to use, with those that live there on 2600. I think the other benefit to having the narrower road with the restriping is that the narrower road will have an automatic, a natural traffic calming effect. Listening to Lauren over the last several years and other traffic engineers, busier, narrower roads that kind of move a little bit like ours do tend to slow traffic down naturally anyway. And I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think if we were to go 2 lanes each direction and take homes, that thing would really become a raceway. And that would just add more problems to the problems we already have. So that's where I am. I want to give this a try, but I also want us to revisit it in a year and see if it's really actually doing something. Not just do it and say, okay, we did it, it must be doing something. I'd really like us to take a good hard look and see, is it accomplishing what we hoped it would? Is it more? Is it less? Is it still worth?
Okay, thank you, Councilman Swanson. Just a question. Have we had a traffic study? Have we had somebody that's a traffic expert look at this to see if this has a chance of accomplishing what we're seeking? Or is this just, I guess I don't understand the process we went through to get this drawing, but have we had somebody that's knowledgeable about traffic flow?
Our engineer Lauren has been heavily involved with looking at this and the turning lane width and the lane widths and the shoulder width and all that. And his background is heavily in streets and roadways. I cannot recall if we hired an outside person to look at it. I know that we did have a traffic count done probably 6 or 7 years ago on 2600 through this section. John might remember the actual counts and particulars.
And I don't remember the actual counts as well as, but there was the traffic study done. And I believe that they helped Jones when we actually, because with Jones and Associates is the one that actually put this drawing together. And at that time, I believe they were the ones that helped them put this together for us. But when they did those traffic counts.
And whatever they were back then, they're a lot more now.
Absolutely.
For sure.
They were
Hey,
just over 11,000 vehicle trips a day in 2015.
So we probably got 20,000 now, the way things are going. But, we've had a lot of discussion about, when we discussed the parade, for instance, we want to maintain that hometown, small town feeling while keeping our citizens safe. And I agree with Councilman Swanson, making this a 2-lane road, which has kind of got the culture of being a hometown. If we can solve it in any other way, I think we ought to seek that out first. Dave, could you, before I go on to Councilman Barker, just so the council understands, what is the end game of this? What do we think this is going to accomplish for us? In addition to the safety issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main thing, is that it's going to make a safer drive up 2600, but it's also going to keep traffic flowing. Obviously they're doing all the changes there at the intersection. And so if we can keep traffic flowing into those intersections by not backing up because right now the way it is, if somebody needs to make a left-hand turn, you're either stacking a bunch of cars behind them or people are making an illegal movement to the right around those people. And so by putting in these left-hand turn lanes, you're keeping that flow of traffic moving and into those intersections so that we can, help people get home safely and a little more quickly. So.
Okay, and I appreciate that, Dave. So thank you for those comments. And I believe if we don't do something, we've just compounded our problem. All of us who have driven for any period of time knows what happens when you go from a 2-lane road to a 1-lane road. And when we widen the road up to 475, and then it narrows down, we could actually be defeating the very reason we're widening the road, is to increase traffic flow. So I'm just concerned that if we don't do something, we may be shooting ourselves in the foot. Councilman Barker, could we go to you?
Sure. Been thinking about this a little bit, and I kind of am wondering what's it going to accomplish this year. We've already said we're going to be having construction on Washington 2600, so we're already going to be slowing traffic down, and it's going to be backing up. Are we even going to really notice a difference this year? And the other point I'd like to make, the biggest congestion I've noticed, or I've seen driving 2600, is at Smith's. People trying to get in and out of Smith's. Again, road construction will fix that problem. We have a few cars that try to turn up 700 East or 850 East, but the majority of them are going into Smith's parking lot and coming out of Smith's. So I empathize with the people that live on this road. I remember when we widened 2600, 15, it's been a while, a long time ago. And we took the property on the south, and I know people that moved because we took their property. And it seems all of our new construction and new development, the ones that have to pay for it are the residents that have been here, that are the established residents that have been here for their whole lives and that have the older properties. So we're tearing down new and taking away, or tearing down old, taking away from old, just to make the new people and the new developments happy. And I feel bad, but I don't know if I can agree with this, that we're going to take away on-street parking when each of these houses have maybe 2 parking stalls in their driveway. So we're not going to let them come and have visitors or guests come to their house. I also work with a friend that lives in this area. He's in the residential city zone, or the civic zone, city zone, whatever it is, city center, whatever that zone is. He can't put a large detached garage in the back of his house because he doesn't have, or in the back of his yard because he doesn't have a big enough house to justify it. So this area also has a lot of zoning standards that don't allow detached garages, or that will accomplish what we're taking away. So I would think if we want to do something, let's wait till after construction's done and look and see how traffic's really flowing.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councilmember Severin.
Always nice to go toward the last, because you listen to everybody and everybody makes really good points. As I analyze this particular map, Mayor, I think it maximizes what we need for traffic flow, and it minimizes the impact of what we need to do for not taking any more of 2600 by widening. So I think it's a good compromise, at least at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stoker, did you have anything else other than your initial comments?
No.
Okay, council, we've had a discussion. You don't necessarily have to arrive at a decision or a recommendation tonight. But let me just kind of take a straw poll, and that's all it is tonight. I think it would be good to, in our next meeting, advertise we're going to have this discussion and let the public give us feedback. Councilmember Stoker, are you in favor of this?
Having a discussion with the public involved, yes.
Of recommending this as a strong potential?
Recommending it, but I don't know how strong.
So is that a yes, no, or maybe?
Maybe.
Okay, we have a maybe.
But
Councilmember Ekstrom? Huh?
But definitely open for the discussion, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Ekstrom, where are you on this?
I'm recommending it. For one thing, it's just paint, right? It's like we can try it and we can always repaint, if it doesn't work. But I think it's worth a try. Again, I would like to have some feedback from the residents that live on the street, because they're the ones that are really going to be impacted. But I do want to see traffic flowing down that street up, better and more safely, especially as the numbers increase, and they are increasing. There's more and more houses going in, and there's still land to be developed. That is the main arterial road that they're going to come in. So I think it's proactive as opposed to reactive, and I generally like to go that way.
Okay, and I think our obligation is to do as much due diligence as we can to have a pretty high degree of assurance that it is going to work. So Councilmember Severing?
I would recommend it and see if somebody on 2600 has an additional insight that maybe we have not seen before. So yes, I recommend that.
Okay, and I think that's a good thing. As I've always said, we have some knowledgeable people here, but we don't have all the answers. If a citizen has a better solution, but I just believe doing nothing is probably not a solution. Councilman Swanson?
I've been recommending this and talking about it since 2015, 2016-ish. I still think it will hopefully accomplish I'm hoping it will accomplish what we want it to accomplish. I am intrigued, though, with Councilman Barker's comments. I know in my business, when I'm fitting someone to a very complex wheelchair, you have to do refittings over a month or so to get everything dialed in just right. And one of the rules of thumb that we use in this business is that if we move too many things at once, you don't really know whether or not you've solved anything. It feels different. You might think it feels better, but it might not necessarily be good. And I'm intrigued with his thinking of, let's get the intersection done. I mean, Smith's is a nightmare. Getting in and out of Smith's is an absolute nightmare on 2600. The intersection will improve that dramatically. It will eliminate the knuckleheads that think they still ought to turn left into 7-Eleven off of 2600. That will be completely eliminated. I think I'm still recommending this, but I think it would behoove us to wait until late September, October-ish when we get this project done and see what flow of traffic does. What happens, and then move on from there. I really appreciated his thinking along those lines. So yes, recommending it. I think we ought to have a discussion about timing.
Anything for you to add, Councilmember Barker?
Nope, Councilman Swanson just summed up I think we should discuss it, and then timing is a key component.
All right, so just to wrap that up, seems like the council is leaning towards that as a viable option, and we'll defer that until the September, October timeframe till we can see what the other moving parts do. And in the meantime, we invite citizens, if they have a better solution to the problem, to join us in a future meeting. Does that give you direction, Dave?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I hear?
Yes, Councilmember Swanson.
Sometime in, let's say, August, as we get close to this, could we put this on as a council discussion item for the specific purpose of having residents on 2600, and maybe put out a special invitation to those residents to attend the meeting and share with us their thoughts and their ideas?
Yeah, I think that was kind of thought I was having. I think in the meantime, I think tonight just opens the gate that unless there's a better solution, that the council is leaning in this direction, but we're surely open to other solutions, and we'll be patient and look at the traffic flow after we widen the intersection. So you bet. But I think the message is tonight that unless there's a better solution, that's the way the council is leaning. All right, anything else before we move on? We promised to follow up, and our item number 6 is going to be led by Katie Gerard, our city recorder. It's item number 6, which will be a discussion on some public comments that were made last time in regards to citizens stating their home address. So, Katie?
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, during the last city council meeting held on February 23rd, a resident asked why it was necessary that they provide their home address when making a public comment. So the North Ogden City Council Rules of Procedure states that for the public hearing, all parties interested in addressing the issue are invited to speak before any discussion is held by the council and before motions are made. Each individual who speaks will state his or her name and address before proceeding. It also states that for a public comment, time is made available to anyone in the audience to address the council and/or mayor concerning matters pertaining to city business. When a member of the audience addresses the mayor and/or city council, he or she will come to the podium and state his or her name and address. It also states that citizens are expected to limit their remarks and questions to 5 minutes each. So with this information, should changes be made to the rules of procedure? What are your thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to call on Councilmember Swanson. I think he had a solution that he suggested that might generate some discussion. Councilmember Swanson.
Thank you, Mayor. When I responded to Katie in this email, I noticed in our rules of conduct, there are 2 different sections where public comments are addressed. One is an actual bona fide tomato public hearing in which I think it's important that we have the name and address of the individuals because those are typically weightier matters where we're making significant changes, tax increases, taking property, those kinds of things that are quite substantial and significant. In my mind, and I may be alone in this thinking, but in my mind, the opinion of those that live within our community takes precedence over the opinion of those that live without our community. And I would want to know who is, because I don't know everybody in the community. I would want to know who they are and where they live, not so that I can egg their house, but so that I can verify that, yes, they're a North Ogden resident commenting on a major North Ogden issue. For the regular public comments that are made in our council meetings, I don't personally feel that having an address is necessary. That's just my feeling. It can be comments on very inane to very complex kinds of things, but it doesn't have the weight, or not the weight, the seriousness, I would say, of a public hearing that's in state code and that we're doing for very specific reasons. And that's my thinking at the moment.
Okay, is there any objections to that? Councilman Swanson, I don't know if you also mentioned your suggestion of reducing in a non-public comment situation, the comment time. Is that something you?
Yeah, in the public hearing, I think we serve our residents well by keeping the comment time to 5 minutes. In county commissions throughout the state, other city councils throughout our county, Davis County, the typical general public comment time is 3 minutes. And I think that's sufficient to keep things concise and to the point and to avoid rambling and just kind of keep the meeting moving along. But I am certainly not married to 3 minutes. If you want to leave it at 5, we've had meetings till 12:30 at night. We can have more.
I'm glad you made that comment about not being married to a 3, because I think you got a 10. So if you're relating that, we might want to go to 10 minutes if it's.
Well, it'd probably be more like a 17 and a half.
Yeah, but you can only go to 10, so.
I can, well, no, I don't know. My amplifier goes to 11.
All right, okay. Any comments on that recommendation? I like the fact that we're not asking residents in a normal comment period to state their address. I don't think that's necessary. I don't know if the mayor has any privilege, if he feels that there's a good points being made and it goes over 3 minutes. I'm assuming the mayor can let that go and it'd be a target of 3 minutes.
Yeah,
So
that.
people aren't offended if the mayor says your 3 minutes is up.
Well, as long as when you say that my 3 minutes are up, you've actually given me 3 minutes.
Any comments, Councilman Barker? I see you unmuted. Once again, I'm all for hearing from the public. I think the point is trying to keep that relevant to the discussion, but I see you unmuted. Do you have a comment?
Just one thought I had, instead of just in the public comment, instead of saying we're a North Ogden resident, if you just give your main street address, I live on Fruitland Drive, I just say my name's Ryan, I live on Fruitland Drive in North Ogden. I think that suffice, because sometimes the public comments, it gives you the bearing of where they're coming from if you know about their general area of where they live. You can understand their concerns more.
So are you saying even in the public comment or when we're doing things like deciding whether to close Pleasant View Drive or a truth and taxation hearing, that you would be satisfied with them saying, I'm Ryan, I live on Fruitland? Or is that just during the general
no, on
comment?
public comments, give your street name, and in public hearing, the full address.
Okay. It's a good idea. Good idea. Thank you. Any other comments, council, before I don't think we need a vote on this, but we can surely change our approach. I think it makes sense not to necessarily have them give their full address other than a public hearing. Okay, seeing none, we'll instruct Katie then to make those adjustments on a go-forward basis.
And Mayor, we'll bring those back. The procedures were adopted by a resolution, so we'll need to bring back an adopted resolution.
Right.
Mayor?
Councilmember Stoker, I'm sorry. Didn't see you'd unmuted.
I did. So I like to sneak in there now and then.
Well, if we had your picture on there, you could at least raise your hand.
That's true. But you know how well I love being on camera.
Yes.
So my comment on to Ryan's, I think if you're going to have public comments, my thought is just keep it simple. You get too many, you can do this, but you can't do that. But when it's this time, then you can do it. So I would just say keep it simple. Then not necessarily where they live, what street they live on. That's just my thought.
Okay. A public hearing too?
No, definitely public
Okay.
hearing, a whole different matter on that.
So you're on with Councilman Barker then?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
except I don't think you need to say that I live on Mountain Road or Fruitland or 3100. Just state your name. Be simple.
Anything else? So we'll direct Katie to make those changes and come back to get appropriate approval from the council. But Katie, why don't you go ahead and put together the recommended changes working with John Call.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
All right. We're now down to public comments. Do we have anyone from the public that's with us, Katie, that would like to make a comment?
We do. Chris Heiner would like to make a public comment.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name's Chris Heiner. I don't know if I still need to give my address or not. Is that?
That's still
Anyway,
our procedure until
okay,
changed
all right.
differently.
Okay, 972 East, 2650 North in North Ogden. First off, I just want to say thank you for those that took the time to read the email I sent last week. I appreciated the comments back. And it's just nice to be heard. And secondly, on the discussion of restriping 2600, I just like to share a few thoughts with the City Council on it. I grew up on 2600. My parents still live there. And as far as the restriping goes, you know, it may not seem like not having parking on 2600 will you know, not really impact a whole lot of the community. But there are a lot of delivery trucks that go up and down 2600 and delivering packages, furniture, you know, all sorts of things. You have the garbage trucks that come up. You have the mail trucks that come by every day. There's a whole number of things that use that shoulder to pull over. Personally, I've had to pull over on that shoulder. My family has an antique fire truck. The engine gets really warm coming up that hill. And you have to pull over and let it cool down before you can proceed, especially if it's a hot summer day. You take away the ability to park on that shoulder, you know, that's going to cause some problems on its own. Not to mention where do the police park to radar the street? You know, and if someone is, you know, breaking the speed limit or passing on the right, or, you know, whatever the situation may be, where do the police pull them over? These are just some thoughts. And then another thought I had while I was driving home from work today, I was coming down the road and two little girls were on skateboards and they were sliding down a hill on a side street. One of them stopped before they reached the corner. The other one stopped shortly after the corner out in where the park strip should be. Now, I luckily had plenty of room. I could stop. There was no need for incident. However, if you're moving cars closer to the edge of the road, they may not have that time to react. And those little girls may not have had the time to stop, you know, where they may have slid out into where the traffic may be flowing. I do think there are some safety concerns with restriping it, removing parking on 2600. Another issue is with some of those driveways being so short, a lot of residents will back into the driveway. If they can't pull over to the shoulder and let traffic pass to a point where they can back in, you know, they may not get out of their driveway safely because now traffic's even closer to the shoulder than it was before. And they would have to back out of their driveway rather than pull out where they have a better line of vision. Those are just some safety concerns. I'm not saying that 2600, you know, we shouldn't look at any other options. I'm just wondering if, because of safety concerns, if that is the best option. I know a few years back, there was even discussion about possibly turning 2600 into a one-way street. That would allow you to have the shoulders, you'd have multiple lanes, might cause a few more minutes of delay, you know, trying to find your way around the city. But I'm just wondering if moving traffic closer to the shoulder to save maybe 30 seconds of drive time is really worth it. These are just my thoughts. I just want to leave that with the City Council. And again, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Chris, for your comments.
So we have a comment that was added to the chat box from Stephanie Casey, 244 Barker Parkway. She says, addressing comments regarding criticism from the community. Criticism from the community is healthy. We should be asking questions and sharing concerns. It is not right to assume that criticism comes from being uninformed. We have another comment from Susan Clements.
Okay, Susan.
Good evening. Interesting discussion on restriping of 2600. I was looking at Google Maps and I've gone up and down 2100 fair amount of times. And the amount of houses on 2100 is much less. It would be nice if we could somehow route a lot of people onto 2100 instead of 2600. And that might actually happen during the construction of the 400, 2600 intersection. Because I know a lot of people that have to go east on 2600 are not going to want to get into that mess that's going to be shortly. So I know when our family moved to North Ogden, it seemed so sensible to go from 2600 up 400 to get to our house. But it was so frustrating because of there were two lanes going up and then the right lane merged into the left lane. And I got so frustrated of people cutting in front of me that I decided to turn right on 2600 and then go up 700 to get to my house. And my blood pressure came down significantly when I did that. So if we could somehow encourage people to use 2100 and go to Fruitland Drive to get to their homes, it would really be nice if we had Monroe Boulevard in that section. That would make it a little easier to go up to 2600. It seems to me that 2600 gets wider once you pass Fruitland Drive. Is that just me, or does it actually widen? I know there are fewer houses, but does it actually widen?
Does anyone have an answer to that? I don't
Okay,
know.
well,
Susan?
that's just, and I wonder too, if the general plan does call for 2600 to be widened anyway in the future. It seems like in discussions in the past, I have heard that will happen. It will have to be widened eventually. Is that in the general plan?
I believe it is in the general plan from what I can gather. As you know, the general plan is currently being revised. I think what I'm hearing from the council tonight is that the last thing anyone wants to do is to impact those homes. But I think the comments tonight generate a much broader discussion. And that discussion is, how do we get ahead of the growth? How does our infrastructure handle the growth that we're experiencing? Because we're struggling now with 21,000 residents. I could be corrected, but I think our build out is somewhere over 40,000 residents. So how do you handle that type of growth without staying ahead of it? The streets in our city were designed many, many years ago. I think John was mentioning that many of the problems we have on 2600 were a result of planning 70 years ago. And so you can see the challenge that the city is facing in staying ahead, because contractors aren't going to pay to widen 2600. They're not going to pay to widen 2100. These are things, as Councilman Barker pointed out, that existing citizens are going to have to deal with because of the growth. So I think the council understands the need, and I'm proud of their willingness to look to the future and be proactive and not have to be reactive, because I don't think anyone projected the explosion in growth we're experiencing today. But I think it is here to stay. So you can see the challenge long-term that we face in making sure that we keep ahead of this growth. So I think that's the broader discussion.
I think so too. And I think, yes, the council has been very proactive. One more thing just on the public comments, just because I comment occasionally. I would like to just state that I am a North Ogden citizen rather than giving my address. And my street address is kind of like, what? Did I get my street address? I didn't. Susan
didn't.
Clement, 668 East, 3125 North. If I just said 3125 North, some people would look at me and wonder if there is a 3125 North, but I would prefer just saying that I'm a North Ogden citizen. Now, those of us who come on fairly regularly and attend the meetings, we're residents anyway. So thank you for letting me comment.
Always. Thanks for joining us.
Mayor, we have Chief Quinney would like to make a comment.
All right, let's hear from Chief Quinney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Katie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just to give the council some perspective, a lot of the discussion is on the issue on restriping 2600 North with the congestion at Smith's. And yes, that is where most of the congestion takes place and causes the issues, but it certainly does extend further east on 2600, especially if any of you have been on 2600 between 7 and 8 a.m. Traffic can back up to 550 and 600 east pretty easily. And anybody who wants to make a left-hand turn going eastbound can wait a significant amount of time, which obviously creates some impatience and people passing on the right, and obviously creating some safety issues. But when we talk about laws and traffic control, whether it's signage or striping, I'll tell you the number one priority is safety. Number two is traffic flow. And a distant third is convenience. And I've heard a number of comments that kind of relate to number three. And we can't take away from the safety and traffic flow, in my opinion, because of convenience. I don't think that waiting for the construction on the widening project is going to eliminate the concerns farther east on the road. I do think that it is an issue that we need to address, and it's going to be the same in August. So that's just my opinion. I hope I give you some insight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thanks, Chief. Surely gives us something to chew on.
Mayor, there are no other comments at this time.
Okay. Chief, thank you for your comments, and those from the public who have joined us, thank you for your comments. They're always welcome. All right, let's go to item number 8, which is additional comments from the council, the mayor, and the staff. Council, do you have any further comments this evening, or would you prefer to hear from staff first to see if they address them, and then we can add if they don't address issues? Or but let's do that. Let's go with the council. With the staff. Let's hear from the staff. John, what do you have to share with us tonight?
One thing, council, that I'd like to talk to you about, with some of the stuff going on across the country, we're seeing an increase in pipe costs, plastic pipe, which we use for our water lines. We would like to get ahead of it a little bit if we can, and order pipe for those projects that we know we need, to just try and lock in the pricing if we can. But because those projects those pipelines, if we bought everything that we thought we might need in the next 12 months, it would be about $231,000. But we can't do that without getting approval from the council. Not because you haven't approved the budgets, but with the way bidding works, we typically bid these with the contractors purchasing the pipe as part of their contract. And so it goes to the full public bid process. Most of the contractors use the same companies. There's really 3 main distributors in Utah. And so we were wondering about possibly securing the pipe early, letting the contractors know that we had the pipe, that they didn't need to include it in their bid, and hopefully saving, between $5,000 and $30,000 on the various projects, just because plastic's becoming so expensive. Our policy does allow us to do that, but it has to be something that's approved by the council. And so that's kind of a question I have for the council, is if you're okay with us securing those pipes, and then proceeding that way. I think Dave's still on. Katie, if you could let Dave talk, but I think if I remember right, Jason mentioned that we've seen a 5% increase in pipe in the past 2 weeks, which is, so on $230,000 worth of pipe, that's about $13,000 that it's gone up in 2 weeks. And so we just want to make sure that we're doing what's best for the city. Dave, do you have any other things to add?
No, I mean, yeah, I think you hit it on the head. That's our biggest concern, is that, we're just seeing across the whole country, with some of the deep freezes that they had. It's actually the resin that they make the pipe with. That's where we're seeing the cost, because they had to shut down all these plants in some of the southern states when they had these deep freezes, that we're seeing these huge increases to start those plants back up, and that there's just this backlog of pricing. So we're just really concerned. We've been told, we're down here. I'm actually down here in class in St. George, and we actually have been told it could be anywhere from 5% up to 30% by the end of the year, just because of the demand on that pipe. So it's kind of something that's really concerning to us, and if we can get ahead of it, we'd be better off.
And Dave, with that pipe, how long can we store it outside before it starts to degrade because of UV and other stuff like that?
So yeah, that was one of the things we talked about. We can actually, they said if we stored it underneath at the old shop underneath our bays, that, we could have it for well over a year. So without having any problems, it's just, just trying to keep it out of the sunlight and those kind of things. But we have some areas over at the old Public Works where we can put it underneath those bays, and we should be good for all the projects we're going to do this year.
So council, the question is just, are you okay with us moving forward with that? We don't see an impact to the budget, other than it's going to be funded a different way.
So what will we name this hedge fund?
The North Ogden bets.
I guess my question is, do we bet the whole amount, or do we take 50% or 75%, or you just want to bet on the whole?
So one of the projects we're actually out to bid right now, and that's the Coldwater subdivision, which is it's the older subdivisions that's south of 2600, almost to Coldwater Canyon. We've got 3,800 feet of pipe for that project that's out to bid right now. Then we also have that on Fruitland. We've been having a lot of breaks, and we're not able to use that line the way we'd like to. And so that one is about 1,000 feet, or sorry, it's 4,000 feet of pipe. And then Dave, what are the other two projects, or the other three? I've got one that's not very long. It's only, the rest of them are kind of about 1,000 feet.
Yeah, and those are just problem areas, council. Just places where we've had, numerous breaks, and we know we just need to get small replacements. One of them that stands out is from 1,700 down to where they're going to actually put Cooperstown. That pipe is old, and it needs to be replaced before, Cooperstown actually comes in, and there's a lot higher demand down there. So
These are all high priority projects. So when we get to budgeting, we're not saying, okay, we've already spent this much and we're eliminating higher priority projects, Dave? You feel these are high on your list?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the story. And John, I'm assuming we would need a motion on this and a vote. You need council approval. What do you need from us?
So I think if the council can give us the approval, however they'd like to, the code doesn't require a vote. It just requires that the council clear it. So a voice vote would work for this, Mayor.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but it's still a vote, right? You need a vote.
Yep.
Council, what discussion questions do you have before we seek a motion? Any questions? All right.
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilman Barker.
I was speaking with Jason Rainey last week when he brought this up to me, and he said they're projecting possibly a 20% increase in the next couple of weeks just on piping price. So I'd say let's buy as much as we can and then sell it and pay for our public work or our police department building with it.
True hedge fund manager right there.
Yeah. But no, I think we need to buy the pipe all that we can right now for our projects. I'm in favor of that.
Any other comments, questions from the council?
Can I short Councilman Barker's proposition?
You want a short sale on that?
Absolutely. No, I'm with Councilman Barker. I think this is the right thing for us to do.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I just
So
had a
moved.
quick question just about the timing of it. I mean, this is kind of a temporary, increase where they have this backlog. Are projects coming soon before we think that it's going to kind of equalize again? I'm thinking about the toilet paper shortage, right? It's like, okay, is this just the toilet paper shortage or is this more of a long-term kind of thing? And how soon are these projects starting? Do we need the pipe right away? In which case, yeah, let's get it so we are sure we have it, especially when we're going to start construction. Is that true, Dave? Is that what's kind of what you're looking at timing here?
Yes. So to answer your question, it's yes on both of them. I think it's a long-term thing, or it's a long-term, short-term thing, I guess is what I want to say. Like with the hurricanes, it almost took 14 months for the price to start evening back out. And then it didn't even all the way drop down to where they were before then. The problem is with these deep freezes down there that they're finding is, in some of these states, they're having major infrastructure breakdowns because they don't bury their pipe as deep. So they're trying to take up all the pipe as well. And so I think it's not going to be just a month-long thing or even a few months. We could see it well over a year or if not longer. And so I think it's something we definitely need to do. But yes, it's like John said, that cold water project's already out right now. Those bids close in the next 3 weeks. And we want to make sure that we're shoring up the prices so that, because just in that project alone, we could see by doing this, we could have savings of anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. So
Dave, what obligation does the contractor have to buy their pipe from us? Wonder if they've done the same thing. Wonder if they've hedged their bet and they beat us to the punch and they already have that pipe. What do we do then?
That's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of times they don't they're not going to buy that, the quantity of pipe until they know that they've had the job put in place. I don't think that they usually stack those in their yards or anything like that because of the same thing that we talked about, the UV protection and those kind of things. So,
and what they normally do is when they go out and they get a bid, they contract with their supplier and they get them to lock in a price. And the suppliers are basically telling them they're not going to lock in prices right now. In fact, if I remember right, Jason mentioned a few suppliers had reached out to some contractors and said, we can't honor your pricing anymore because it's moving too fast.
Well, that's my point, John, is if you have major contractors that know that they're going to have, whether it's our bid or not, I just think we ought to confirm with these guys that they're willing to buy the pipe from us and they haven't already bought it. Because really what we're doing here is we're hedging a bet.
So the only,
And if
the
we
only
if we could
project that's
call
out-
if we could call prices of stocks and commodities, none of us would be doing our current jobs. We'd be very. The thing I like about this is Dave's guarantee that we will save the money, and he just wants a split on that, but he's willing to cover the whole loss. That's what I like about his proposal.
Oh, thanks.
and we do, because we don't have anyone under contract yet, we can force them that we will not select them to be our contractor unless they buy the pipe from us.
Okay, should that be a condition then of the? Is it already out for bid or is it coming up for bid?
Yeah, so if you approve it tonight, then what we'll do is we'll actually make an addendum to the bid that's out right now. And we'll say that the price, that the pipe is already being provided by North Ogden City. So now you're only charging us for the price to install it. Does that make sense?
Council, what do you think about getting that a surety if we can? Because as we know, they make money on the pipe too, right? So now the thing we'll be facing is, do they make more money on labor because they can't make it on the pipe? But any other further questions, comments? All right, I'd be looking for a motion then from a member of the council regarding the proposal to purchase. What's the amount, John, we're authorizing?
So it's 231,000.
Approximately 231,000, maybe up to 250, depending on what happens in price. I think we need to give some leeway, but council, do we have a motion?
Mayor? Oh,
Go ahead, Ryan.
nope, you go ahead. It's your department.
Okay. Mayor, I would move that we allocate approximately $231,000 to be able to purchase additional pipe for city needs.
Could I just ask a question before I seek a second on that? Not wanting to be out of order, but could we do that an up to an amount so that we don't hold their, so we don't bind their hands?
Sure. So, Mayor, I would propose that we allocate up to $250,000 to the purchase of piping for city needs.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Severing. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Barker. Are there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the proposal, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, John, does that give you the direction you need, Dave and John?
Yep.
Okay, thank
Thank you,
you.
council.
All right, anything else, John, that you have?
So the only other question I had, Mayor, was about the parade discussion or the parade route discussion and when the council wanted to have that. It would be the only thing on the agenda next week.
I'm for having a short meeting where we get that discussion done, a decision made, and we move forward.
Only if it's short.
Be
I
the only item
promise.
on the agenda. We could do what we just did with the pipe. We could say no longer than.
That works.
Just kidding. All right, John, sounds like next week, unless anyone objects, that would be the item on the council agenda. I do believe that the decision is very timely as it's getting closer and closer. I was on a meeting with the other mayors and the health department on Friday. And the question was asked how to proceed in planning events for the summer. The health department just issued cautionary situations of social distancing, masks, sanitation, but there are no longer, based upon us going from high risk to moderate risk on size of gatherings. But they still advise to be very cognizant of following current guidelines in regards to masking, etc. So we'll have that on the agenda then for next week. Okay, anything else, John?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Council, let's go to you. You heard from citizens, anything we can do to improve our service to them or comments that you've received you want to discuss this evening?
Mayor, I just had one comment from a citizen.
Okay,
They had one of their questions was over if we close Pleasant View Drive. They wanted to know if there would still be a crossing walk right there, and also would there still be a guard for the school crossing guard.
I believe the kids still have to cross the street there. Now it's 4 lanes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're
So
correct, Mayor.
I would assume that we would have a crosswalk and we would have a crossing guard there. Is that an incorrect assumption, John?
No, you are correct.
All right. Anything else from the council?
So another
Hey, Mayor.
question is if we change that to park area, as we're talking about, will we keep the sidewalk, I'm assuming, so that the kids can walk through the park itself and then get to the intersection where they're going to cross to the across the street to the school?
John?
So the sidewalk is still planned as part of the project in the same location. So they'll basically be crossing the sidewalk as they, whether the park's all the way filled in or not.
Okay. Anything else from council?
Hey, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Barker.
I did speak with Dave earlier today as well. Pleasant View Drive is temporarily closed. So this will give us a good look at what will happen if we decide to close Pleasant View Drive in the future. We're already getting traffic down 300 East, so.
Do you know what the issue is? I had that discussion earlier today, I think in staff meeting. It's that left-hand turn. There's no pocket for them to pull out, and so it's backing traffic up. But you still have that problem if you make it a right turn only. People trying to get across to make that left-hand turn there. But I think they're going to work on maybe opening up that pocket eventually so it doesn't back up traffic. But I think you're right. We're going to find out a lot about people's habits to get around the city with this widening project.
And on that note, for everyone that's concerned about the fire district, we avoid these areas and we know ahead of time. So you shouldn't see fire trucks going up Washington at this time unless we really have to.
Now, can I still drive in front of those vehicles in case I need them? Councilman Barker?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Just to add in regards to Councilman Barker's comment, we have communicated with Pleasant View. We'd like their mayor to be in town when we have the discussion. I believe he'll be back towards the end of the week. And what we'd like to do is made a suggestion to grab a couple of our council members, 2 of our council members and 2 of their council members, city managers and the mayor, to sit down and hear what they have to say if they have a proposal that we haven't vetted or thought about. So we haven't forgot them. And I believe John has put out a couple of dates to meet with them. I also had a conversation with one of the county commissioners about all the county islands that are in our city. It was interesting. He kind of showed a map, and a lot of the other cities have kind of cleaned that up, and we probably have more islands in the city than anyone. I tried to explain to him that what's the motivation for people to pay $2,500 to get a survey as required by the lieutenant governor, and then join the city and pay more taxes. I only know of one person that's been excited to do that since I've been in the city, and but they're very concerned about the number of islands that we have in the city regards the county. And it was interesting. I think he jokingly said this, but I said, so how do you motivate them with those things? He goes, well, you're plowing the road for them for free. You know, you're providing a lot of services to them free. And that was kind of his solution, but just wanted to update the council. I'm sure you've heard this before, that the county is concerned about the number of islands we have in the city, and they're not concerned about, you know, those who have acreage that may be developed in the future. They're just concerned about these small pieces that are throughout the city. So that's all I have. So if there's nothing else, could we get a motion to adjourn this evening? Okay, let's continue on then. We have no motion to adjourn.
Sharon, we're giving you the opportunity. Go.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Councilmember Stoker, do we have a second?
Cheryl.
Second.
All right, all in favor of adjourning? Sign off
Aye.
now.
Bye.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.